too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
At Bellevue?
No,
You've now tuned in to the Drawing Board Podcast, a powerful, thought-provoking discussion where we talk about family, relationships, ministry, community, and career. Let's see what exciting guests we have on our show today.
Great evening, everyone. This is Andre Ebron, the founder and the host of the Drawing Board Podcast. Before we get into our awesome show that we have planned for you tonight, I want to make you aware of a couple of good things we want to celebrate with the Drawing Board Nation. So the Drawing Board Nation just completed the 9-week coaching series. And I know some of you are saying, what? You guys had a coaching series? Yes, we had a 9-week coaching series where I went on Facebook Live every Monday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., and we walked through the entire book, and I taught a lesson. We had some feedback and conversations, a dialogue about each chapter of the book, and also provided some principles that everyone could apply to take their life from good to great. As I always tell you, our responsibility here is to lead you from effectiveness to greatness. Now, how do we do that? We consult, develop, and support personal, professional, and organizational transformation. Based upon these 5 core values, it's an acronym called POISE: professionalism, optimal service, integrity, solution-oriented, and excellence in all that we do. So we want to make sure that you take advantage of this coaching series. If you're interested, please drop your name in the comments below, or you can direct message me or inbox me, or you can email me at info@ebronassociates.com. Another great news tip for you now. Listen, you better take advantage of it while the tickets are lasting. The Drawing Board Experience 2020. And the crowd goes wild. Listen, you need to make sure you get your tickets now. And listen, the thing that is different for this year is that all youth ages 17 and under, they get to come absolutely free. We're giving them access to professionals that they are at the top of their industry, and they also have experience with empowering and engaging our youth. So you want to make sure that you bring them out, because we have Shane Fitness 101. He is coming down with the Step Till You Sweat. He's going to get some people on stage with the step aerobics, but his step aerobics has routines to it. They break it down. He was on stage last year, and he lit the stage up. Then we have Dr. Patrice Johnson, who is the executive director of Boys Hope, Girls Hope of Detroit. You want to make sure you come out. She just obtained her doctorate within the last 6 months, and just come to find out that she is the first African-American from her school within her specific doctoral program to complete that degree. First African-American woman. So shout out to Dr. Patrice. Then we have Dr. Wayman Hayes from Focus Hope. And we have one of his colleagues here tonight, and we will introduce her in just a moment. But he'll be on there. He has over 3 decades of empowering early childhood staff, children, and families. We also have, listen, tune in, come close, it gets better. We have international businessman, serial entrepreneur, Darius Wally Richburg McCaskill. You have to be there. You have to be there. This is a must. If that's not enough, we have the choir from Detroit School of the Arts. They will be performing as well. We have Dawn Smith out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, with her awesome message of enough. Just go ahead and repeat that with me right now. Say, I am enough. Go ahead. I am enough. Absolutely. So we want you to come to the Drawing Board Experience 2020. But without further ado, I know that some of you all are anxious. I know Dad is probably watching. I know family, church family, Focus Hope family is watching. And all of the world is waiting to see who we have on the show tonight. Tonight we have LaShonda Bateman. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we talked about this, having you on the show a couple months ago at the reunion of Southeast Head Start, Southeast Children and Family Development Head Start.
Yes.
So you and I, we shared that, and we just were talking about it. We both started working for Head Start in 2004. Sorry about that. Yeah, 2004. So that is now like 16 years ago.
Yes.
That we walked through the doors with the aspiration and the passion of impacting the lives of children and families on the southeast side of Detroit.
Yes.
Yeah. So did you start off early childhood, or did you start off regular Head Start?
No, actually, I started off being a parent sub. My children were a part of the early Head Start program at Bellevue.
Oh, excellent, excellent. I ended up coming over to Bellevue eventually. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was myself and Crandall Petway.
Yes.
We were the family service workers over there holding it down. Absolutely. Two of the best to ever do it. So we were out, no, but Southeast was definitely a family.
Yes,
and when
it
we had
was.
the reunion, I mean, everybody was coming out. I thought that was a great thing. I know you all availed the venue at Focus Hope. Awesome occasion. We were just sitting at the table over dinner, and I was telling you about what I had going on. You were telling me about what you had going on. And I couldn't think of a better time than, International Women's Day was on Sunday, but March is the month where we celebrate women across the world. And so for me, especially being a dad and being a husband, one of the highest honors that I feel of womanhood is motherhood. So, LaShonda, let me tell them about you, though, before we get into what we're here to talk about tonight. LaShonda Bateman is a social cause champion for mothers with multiples. She has been a part of working with children and families for over 20 years. LaShonda has been connected to the work of empowering families through workforce development, early learning programs in the city of Detroit, and helping them become self-sufficient. She currently works and serves families as a program manager for Focus Hope. One focus, hope. I see all of you, all of my Southeast family. I see that, all those quotes and tags. You guys are doing an awesome job. So, Hope, early learning program, working with early learning and youth development programming. Mrs. Bateman is quite in touch with understanding the struggles of motherhood and providing for a small family with having a set of triplets
Yes.
in 2004. Let's pause and just give some a set of triplets. Now I see all these shows and these what is it, Kate Plus 8
Yeah.
and what's the other one that's out there? It's another show where it's a lot of children and you need your own show. What happened? we got to go ahead and rewind. Maybe you have to do it again.
Oh no.
Maybe we got to do it again. All of the viewers who want to see LaShonda do it again, she's championing the cause, but we want to see the show with her. But actually, her children are in prime adolescence. They are right in that tween stage between just becoming teenagers and now segueing into adulthood. We'll talk about that in a minute. But most women have an understanding of mothering, one child at a time. LaShonda was blessed with 3 babies, all 3 of them, at one time. And look, 2 handsome young men and 1 beautiful baby girl. Now they are 16. The triplets are doing very well and serve with her family in the ministry, in church. Now, let's talk about it. So you are a PK.
Yes, I am.
All right, so shout out to Pastor
Patterson.
Absolutely.
New Greater Zion Hill.
Shout it out. Get the address. Go ahead.
New Greater Zion Hill Missionary Baptist Church. Reverend Eddie J. Patterson is the pastor.
All right, so a PK. All right, so talk to me about your journey, like from being a PK to deciding to go into early childhood to being a mother. Like, who is LaShonda Bateman?
Well, LaShonda Bateman is, of course, the daughter of Pastor Patterson and Veronica Pearson. But ultimately, being a PK, it was younger. It was kind of fun, but as you get older, it's more demanding on you. You have to deal with more of the issues. But LaShonda is someone who is, of course, the mother of 3 triplets and who kind of had to find her way from being that adult PK into motherhood.
Okay, so going from PK ship, I don't even know if that's a word, but we're going to use it, okay? Into transitioning into adulthood, discovering, when you grow up in church, your appetite is kind of set for you, right?
Exactly.
And then discovering what it is, even within your personal relationship, especially as a PK, because as a PK, most PKs are serving, right?
Exactly.
And in the process of serving, we end up finding ourselves catering to the needs of others, always making sure, and that's a blessing. But in the process of development, sometimes, and that's why, and I don't know about all the details of your journey, but I know for a lot of PKs, that's why they make a sharp left a lot of times because they feel like their development has been arrested by the needs of others. And so they go left to try to discover what do I like? Who am I outside of church? Who am I outside of what everybody else expects from me?
Right.
And was that your experience as well?
Yeah, it was my experience, but it was more of me trying to go left to kind of identify myself, but also step down from the podium that or the platform that I was placed on,
Okay.
and trying to really let people know that I'm really not on this platform. It's my Father's platform, and that I'm just like you. Like I make mistakes just like you. I'm learning just like you.
Oh, that's good. So how would you encourage someone who might be in that position right now? What would be your best advice to them?
My best advice to them for that would ultimately be to take a look at themselves, to really seek and find out exactly who you are and exactly where you are supposed to be. Because everybody, just because that's my father's journey doesn't mean that it's my journey. But I do think that part of my journey is to assist and aid him and to making sure that his mission and what he is setting out to do comes to pass. And that's something that I had to kind of sit back and I had to realize that's what it was for me.
Oh, that's great. So self-discovery is a process.
Exactly.
And as you journey on, you learn more. Mm-hmm. You have different experiences that unearth certain aspects of your potential.
Yes.
And shows you actually a more effective way of ministering to others.
Exactly.
As Christ did, because we know not an high priest who's not touched with the feeling of our infirmities. He knows what we go through. He knows what we have experienced. And the best witness is one that speaks from a voice of experience.
Exactly.
So now you're on that path to self-discovery, and then God blesses you with 3 little ones. Talk to me about the whole process of pregnancy. Like, talk to me when you first found out. So take me to that space.
So
All
the whole journey of it was we actually did have some issues in conceiving in the beginning.
Okay.
And I remember at church we had this prayer lock-in where my father actually prayed for everybody. And when he did pray for me because he wanted grandchildren, he prayed that, that I would be able to conceive. And it just so happened that after that prayer, I did conceive, and I conceived 3.
Hold on, Pastor. Now listen, that must have been a mighty prayer. Now, what kind of oil were you using, Pastor? I need to know. Bring it in. Come on. We need to talk about this. How many days did you fast before you start praying? Because not only did God answer your prayer, I know you probably have preached several times. He not only did it once, but for the Father, for the Son, and for the Holy Ghost. 3 times, right?
And that's exactly how I look at it, the
Yeah.
Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Oh, yeah. I know, trust me. When believers have experiences, we find a way to always see God. Mm-hmm. And he blessed you with 3 children. So you went to a prayer. Now, here's the thing that I have, because you just gave a loaded experience, mm-hmm. because you said you all were having some challenges initially. Mm-hmm. What kept you encouraged during that time to continue to, try to conceive?
My faith.
Okay.
Because I know that as long as I believed, and if it was in his will, that I knew that it was going to happen. But I just knew that it was going to happen in his time.
Okay. That's good. So timing is a huge thing.
Yes.
What would you say to a family right now that they may have had some challenges conceiving, but just like you, they just have faith to believe that God is going to do that? What would you say, and here's the question, that would alleviate the pressure surrounding conception?
So what I would tell them is the first off that they have to seek, and they have to believe.
Okay.
They have to ask for exactly, because my pastor tells me that you have to ask exactly what you want. If you want two girls, you ask for those two girls. If you want a boy and a girl, you ask for those boy and a girl. So you have to first, you have to have the faith, you have to believe, you have to ask, you have to pray, and you have to be consistent in your praying. And you just have to know that in God's own timing, that if it's in His will, that's the thing, quotation mark, in His will,
Okay.
that it will happen.
All right. So that's good. So you've heard it. Excuse me. Take the pressure off by seeking the Lord, by asking the Lord. You said seek, ask, and knock. You was preaching over here. All right. And then you said ultimately you surrender your will for His will. And if it is in His plan for your life, then it will come to pass in His time.
Exactly.
All right, so now 3 blessings come. But take me to the point. I want to know the conversation between your family when you discovered that you're not only pregnant with 1 child, but you're pregnant with 3 children.
So, in the beginning, I really thought that I was pregnant with twins in the beginning.
Okay.
And then later on, it came that it was 3. So at that moment, I cried.
Okay.
I cried because it was fear, that I wasn't going to know what to do, how to do. I was someone who never even babysat a child.
Okay.
So having it in my head to go from it just being always me or me and my husband to now we're bringing in these 3 children in the world, I cried.
Yeah. Family of 2, family of 5.
Yes,
Yes.
instant.
Right, instantly.
So I immediately I called my dad. He was excited.
Right. Listen, he had been fasting 40 days and
Exactly.
40 nights to lay hands and speak a word.
I also called my husband. I just said, listen here. I said, it's 3. What are we going to do?
Yes.
And he said, we going to provide for those 3.
All right.
So when I heard him say, we're going to provide for those 3, it kind of, took some of the pressure off. And I was just like, okay, we're in this together.
Right.
So that was my initial response to knowing that it was 3.
Oh, man. Listen, I could picture it. The reason I ask is because when my wife and I were getting ready to deliver our first child, there was a person doing their residency. Mm-hmm. And the doctor, our doctor had gone for a rest and so he's got my wife's stomach was round like a basketball. So they got one heart monitor up here and another heart monitor over there. Mm-hmm. And so he comes back and he says, we hear 2 heartbeats. Now we're getting ready to have these children. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And I said, oh my goodness. And at that point, I was a child passenger safety technician. Uh-huh. So we were, car seats and all of that. And that's when they really got big on the click it or ticket. You remember?
Right.
And so I said, oh my goodness. The first thing I said was, I only bought 1 car seat.
The car seat,
The car seat. And so come to find out, it was an echo in the uterine wall of my daughter's heartbeat just because of how my wife was carrying her. Mm-hmm. And there was a little bit of a sweat off the brow. I was like, oh Lord, we're getting ready to go. And so while we didn't end up having multiples, I know that initial shock to the system that you're like, oh, we're getting ready to have more than 1? I hope they have the same sleep schedule, I mean, all of these different things. But so after the initial shock, your husband reassures you that you're not in this thing by yourself. Your dad is shouting and praising God. Okay, so what happens next? Walk me through that journey. Because when my wife was pregnant with our son, she was just carrying just him. Mm-hmm. Her stomach was 48 inches in front of her. So she had to sit up on the couch And sleep, like, talk to me about that.
So after the initial shock, I was currently working full time,
Okay.
but due to the sickness, my doctor had to put me on bed rest at 3 months.
Okay.
And so during after that, I was only able to be in the bed, and I was only able to leave the house to kind of like go to doctor's visits. And if I did, I had to be in a wheelchair because the children were trying to come really early.
Okay.
And so my doctor was kind of afraid that their lungs
Wouldn't be
weren't going to be developed. So we went through this thing called preeclampsia,
right. Yes.
where that was kind of troublesome. And then I was very sick. I could not eat. It was I couldn't even drink water. I think when I got pregnant, I think I was a size 12, and after pregnancy, I was a size 8 because I could not eat. The smell of certain things would even make me sick. So
Hold on, that is a miracle. Hold on, wait a minute. So you were a size 12 before pregnancy,
yes,
and then
8
after
after.
pregnancy you were 8. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Those months that I was on bed rest, it was kind of your mind starts to wonder. You sitting. All I'm able to do is just sit home and basically watch TV.
Right.
And so you just start to think, and you starting to think like, well, will my babies be okay? Am I okay? Am I going to be able to do this? So it took me through a lot during those months. So I finally delivered the children. I was in bed one morning. My husband was up getting ready for work, and I was 6 months. I was 26 weeks.
Okay.
My water just broke, and I didn't. At first, I didn't know what was going on. So then when I got up, I told him, I said, well, we have to get to the hospital. So I was made sure that I contacted my doctor. My doctor was just like, we have to deliver them now. Just get there. And so my children were born at 26 weeks. Normally, a pregnancy is 40 weeks. My children were born at 26 weeks. So when I did deliver them, 2 of them were 2 pounds, 11 ounces, and 1 was 3 pounds. And so after their delivery, I did have a C-section.
Right.
I did not get to see my children right away because they took them right away and took them to the NICU, and hooked them up to so many machines and breathing machines, and they had tubes in their head, and feeding tubes and a lot of different things. So after that time, it was me trying to go back and forth to the hospital, making sure that they were becoming healthy, making sure everything was fine. So eventually, probably about a month and a half later, that they each came home one by one.
Okay.
And when they all came home, it was a total shock.
I'm certain.
It was a total shock because you just can't imagine how you have to feed 3 babies, you got to change 3 babies, you got to rock 3 babies, and it was really I think it took me kind of like by surprise, and I went into postpartum depression.
Okay.
And so in having postpartum depression, it was more so less me never, ever wanting to harm my children. It was me wanting to harm myself because I thought that I couldn't do this. I thought that I was in it alone, and I thought that I was failing. And so that took me, it was years of postpartum depression.
So, if you don't mind, let's unpack that for a little bit, because one of the things that I've seen for parents just across the board is that parents have this ideal of how they should parent, or if they have had a great model of parenting, or even if they haven't had a great model of parenting, in their mind they conceive this idea that when I have children, I'm going to be this kind of parent. And with multiples, I'm sure just the stress of sleeping schedules, eating schedules, as you articulated, changing diapers, changing clothes, putting on clothes, spitting up, changing more clothes, just washing and trying to maintain the household. It was extremely stressful.
Very.
Right. So what would you recommend to somebody who's experiencing that right now before like depression has an opportunity to set in? What would you say to them?
I would say is make sure that you connect with someone who you can talk with, who
Okay.
you can communicate with, who you can trust, someone who is willing to even come over for a couple hours and maybe watch the children while you have some me time, because me time is what's important. And even though you have infants, you still have to set aside some time for you as a mom, and because you have to regroup.
Right.
And you have to make sure that you're okay so that you can provide and be able to be around for the children. But you always need an outlet. That's the one thing that now that I look back on it, you always need an outlet.
Okay. And so I know as you're developing mothers with multiples, like I've seen where parents now they join parent groups where it gets them out of the house, it gets them moving, they have certain activities, or I know a lot of times mothers come to church or they go to different activities, and that's their activity for the week because taking care of a household is a lot of work. I can admittedly say, I'll say it right now. Listen, when my wife was home with our daughter and son, and that was kind of the agreement we had was, hey, you'll be home with them, I'll work, you take care of the household, and, kind of that was the whole idea of how the structure was supposed to go. And so I remember coming home like, yo, what, like what's going on here? Different things weren't done, and I'm like, in my mind, this is my male mind, like man, if you home all day, and listen, please don't write me. I already know I have already admitted that I was wrong in this. So what I did was I took off 2 weeks, like, yo, I'm gonna show, I'm gonna give her a break, and I'm also my goal was I had a bifurcated goal. So my goal was
To show her.
I'm gonna give her a break, though. That was the main part. Give her a break, but also to say, this can be done. All right. So my kids are 18 months apart, and man, it was the toughest thing that I have ever done. And so when I got up early in the morning to get breakfast ready for the entire family, I had to also get ready to get the loads of clothes ready to wash. I had to get the kids their little showers or whatever, not to mention whatever food they decide to throw on themselves or what have you. Then it was trying to clean up while they were still awake because I couldn't run the vacuum or anything when they were asleep. And when they slept, it was time for me to try to get a little nap. And then trying to, be a good husband and attend to my wife. And just as, when I was working, she would, she would prepare my lunches and stuff for me. Likewise, I'm sure that the same thing was happening in your household. And I developed a entirely newfound respect for all mothers, particularly my wife. And then now listening to you as a mother with multiples, brothers, it is more challenging than what you think.
Oh, yeah.
I was young. We were, I was 23. My wife was in her 20s. And so we were young parents, still figuring it out. And let me tell you, so newlywed and new parents.
Right.
Wow. So, yeah, talk to me the stress of it all without an outlet has the potential to go inward, right?
Yeah, right.
All right. So talk to me about what did you go through? How did you come out of it?
So not only did it take me through postpartum depression, it kind of took a toll on my marriage.
Okay.
Because during that time, as I look back on it now, during that time, I was kind of only thinking about myself. I was only kind of thinking about this is what I'm going through. You know, I'm dealing with this and I'm dealing with that, but not to. I didn't see that my husband was going through as well, and we stopped communicating. And so when you have children, that's one thing I would say too. You have to make sure that the communication, as far as between the husband and the wife, or the father and the mother, you have to make sure that you are communicating with each other.
Right.
Another thing was, because my kids were born prematurely, and they were born, with the low birth weight, there was a lot of back and forth to the doctor, making sure things were progressing, making sure they no learning disabilities, no learning delays, and all of that. But I was blessed with to have 3 healthy babies with no issues.
Well, let's praise God right there for a minute. That's my praise God bell, if you want to know what it is. No, and not making light of it. That is a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
To develop, to deliver children at 26 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
to have them go to the NICU, go through that process, and no developmental delays, 3 healthy babies, mom is intact, experiencing some things, definitely.
Right.
But mom's still providing, making sure the kids get what they need. And that is a miracle. So that's a good thing. I know that was part of your dad's prayer too. So, no, and I jokingly, I'm messing with Pastor out there. But seriously, when he prayed that thing through.
Yeah.
And your faith met his faith, you guys agreed, and God performed a miracle.
Yeah.
Like literally giving birth to children, even if it's just one, it is the miracle of life.
Right.
So to do it 3 times over, 3 healthy babies, man, we have to give God praise for that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But not only being a new mom with triplets, so you're seeking advice from whomever that will listen or whomever that will talk to you. And so you are hearing stories of, oh, that's all you have to deal with. Oh, I have 5 kids. Oh, I have 6 kids. And they're making it seem as if, what I'm going through and how I'm not really complaining, but what I'm going through is nothing. But I always say that even if you have 5, 6 kids, you still don't have a set of triplets.
Yes.
You still did not conceive 3 children at one time.
Right.
So what you went through as a mother is totally different than what I'm going through as a mother, and that's why I'm setting out to really start this thing with mothers with multiples, to really connect with other like-minded moms, other like-minded families out there that have multiples, so they can have an out, so they can have a support system, so they can talk with other moms who have went through or are going through, to let them know, hey, I went through this, you are able to overcome this, or I'm here to be your listening ear, or this is how I dealt with it, this is how I came out of it, to offer resources, and first and foremost, to always let moms know that it's okay to talk to a therapist. It's okay to see a therapist. It's okay to talk with your pastor. It's okay, because you have to release things in order to really get it off of you and to be able to overcome things. You have to be able to talk about it.
That's excellent. So here's my next question. What were some of the greatest joys of being a mother with multiples?
Well, some of the joys were, I can remember my kids being younger. And as we talked earlier, each one of my children have their own personality.
Yes.
My son Eric, who thinks he's Einstein, he was always the serious child. He was always the child that was kind of more of the mild-manneredness. And then I had Eddie. I'm sorry, Eddie, who is this outgoing, sociable person, always smiling,
He's named after your dad?
Yes, he's named after my father.
Okay.
Yes. And then I had my daughter, Essence. But it was always, it seemed as if my children always knew when I was down, because it was like they would do something in their actions, or they would just come and lay their head on me, or give me a hug, or give me a kiss, because and that was kind of like my uplifting, and that was kind of like what actually kind of like really was bringing me through the down times, is really, seeing their faces, seeing their smiles, and knowing that, hey, even though if I don't think that I'm being this good mom, at least these three think that I'm the greatest mom.
Absolutely. It's interesting. Children's expectations of us, particularly at that age, is for us to love them the best way we know how. And the only contrast that they would have is none at all, because they could have only been recipients of the love that you give them. I talk about it, but one of my cousins was going through some challenging times, and he had to get ready to go buy some pull-ups for his child. And of course, when you're a young parent, you're like, oh no, it's huggies and loves. That's what we're doing. And then one time had to buy some CVS, off-brand pull-ups, and felt a certain way about it. And I said, well, hey, listen, is it gonna catch the pee and the poop? Is it gonna do the job? I said, that's all that your baby is concerned about.
Right.
Your baby is concerned about being dry. And if at this point that is the best that you can offer, your baby will gladly accept it.
Exactly.
And at that time, you were talking about the connection that your children have to you, that emotionally they know, and probably even now.
Right.
Like, well, they probably have cell phones and everything else now, so they probably calling in, especially the boys calling in and checking on you. Mama, what you doing? Mama, who you talking to?
Right.
Right? What's going on, right? That's what young men do. They either do that or they're hard to get in touch with. One or the other, And so our children need our love. And that is what, like, if I can erase any misnomer out there, I mean, of course, I did the same thing, and I'm sure that you did the same thing as well. We wanted to have them dressed up and all this other kind of stuff. Listen, they will not remember any of that.
Yeah.
Besides us taking pictures.
Yeah.
And I'm not discouraging you from doing that, but what I am discouraging you from doing is stressing about doing it.
Right. Yeah. I do, because on social media, and you see young parents, and you see it's like it's a game to them. It's like that's what you have a child for, to dress them up in the finest of things, and to make sure that they look good. But that's not what it's about. It's really about training them up, making sure that they have the necessities, not what they want, but it's okay to give them wants, but the necessities, and showing them, how to make it in this society that is now just all about, the social media and the fads, and so it's motherhood is more than just that. It's about, like you say, loving on your children, giving them teachable moments, giving them experiences that so they can learn from it, because you learn from your experiences, and that's mainly what we as mothers or we should be trying to set for our children.
So, Ms. Bateman, I'm putting you out there on the line. If you had to define motherhood, the LaShonda Bateman philosophy of motherhood, what would you say?
My definition of motherhood is kind of what I just talked about, making sure that your children see, know, and feel love.
Put that in the comments, that your children see, know, and feel love.
And making sure that you have your walk is going to be something that they can look on and say, I want to be like my mom. I want to be like my dad. I want to do this like my mom. I want to do this like my dad. And some a parent that they could be proud of, a parent that they can say, "Hey, this is my mom. This is what she did." I have 3 children, but I've never stressed. We've talked about college. We've talked about the next things in life, but I've never pushed college on them because I want them to make their own decisions. Because just because I have a college degree, and I know someone with a trade that makes more money than me. So I want them to be able to make their own decisions, and that's something I always try to stress. And what I look at is, even though I have 3, I parent each one of them differently because each one of them demands something different from me. So it's like you have to give different. And what I've learned is from being a parent and from having 3, it's like you have to set aside time for all 3.
Now, talk to me about that juggling act now. You're talking about each child demanding something different. They all are in the same age group. They all have different requirements, and you find a way to spend individual time with each one. How do you get that into your schedule?
Well, it's kind of hard, but what I mean by setting aside time for each one is even just a conversation.
Okay.
To make each one feel as though, just because it's 3 of you, I still have love for you. I still have love for you. I love each one of my children the same, but them growing up, I had to learn that I had to give each one of them something different. And so that is what I've come to realize. That's why I say you have to parent them differently. You have to give them their own individual time. And you just have to let them know that just because there are multiples, that you still love them the same.
Now, here's a question that I have for you. I don't know if you'll be able to tell me or not. So I know with children or families where there are 3 or more, that middle child, has they call it the middle child syndromes. When there are multiples, is there a middle child? Does that child have a middle child syndrome? Yay or nay? What's your experience?
Yes.
Yes.
My middle child, that's my Eddie.
Yes.
Very. I do think he has the middle child syndrome, and I do think because he tries to stand out. He tries to be different in everything that he does. He wants to be. He has to be different. He's the child that growing up in school, he was the child that constantly, every time the phone rang, it was the school. He was doing something in school.
He was discovering his greatness.
If that's what you want to call it.
Absolutely.
But I would have to agree with you that there is a such thing as middle child syndrome.
With multiples? Okay.
Yes.
I was curious about that because I was like, if they are all born at the, same time, not literally same time, but if there's one in the middle, does that still play a dynamic? So,
yeah.
Oh, wow, that's different. Here's another question I have, totally off the cuff. Is your middle child, Eddie, is he anything similar or likening to how your dad was when he grew up?
I don't think so. I think because hearing stories of my grandmother talk about my dad was a more relaxed child. He was more like Eric.
Okay.
So Eddie is more like my uncle my dad's brother. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I had to ask because I was like, maybe when you were seeing, you were prophesying his future of who he would be, and that journey toward overseeing and pastoring people, you take your own route,
right,
and you're cut from a different cloth. You find your way when you're uniquely gifted that way. Especially that's your son that's into music, right?
Yes, Eddie,
yeah.
The middle child.
So he's your creative in the house.
Very creative, yes.
Yeah, so creatives they operate to their own beat anyway.
And that's
right?
him.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So, and the only thing that I've seen with working with young people who are creative is that they just have to find their lane. And when they find their lane, their uniqueness causes them to dominate, and to excel and to succeed at what they do. So that's excellent. So now the LaShonda Bateman philosophy of motherhood is that children have to see, know, and feel love. And here's something that you said that I want them to put in the comments, just so we can, so you can have this. Is you said be the type of parent that your child could be proud of.
Exactly.
That's good. That needs to go in your literature. So, all of this that you're doing to highlight mothers with multiples, like vision cast for me for a moment. Where do you see this going? How large do you see this getting? The underbed and the philosophy behind it, see, know, and feel. Like, let talk to me about it. Just vision cast for me. What do you see?
Well, I do see this becoming a very huge movement, because there are if you look at the research, multiples are becoming very common, and there are women out there that are crying silently for help. So, and I feel like once I really put this platform out there, I think that this could be a way for them, to get the help, the support, or the encouragement that they need. There are, like we were talking about, books to tell you how to raise children.
Right. What the book What to Expect When You're Expecting, the first year after, all of these different the literature that's out there.
Each year is something I'm learning, being a mom, just as my kids are learning being children.
Okay.
And it's all of it, to me, it's learning and teachable moments for the both of us. Am I sitting here saying that I'm this great parent where every day is sunshine? No. There are some days that I want to cry. There are some days that I want to smile and congratulate my kids on their successes and what they're doing. There are some days that I have disappointments. There are some days that where I know where I've taught them this, but they go astray and they do their own thing. But that's, once again, those are the teachable moments that me as a mother and them as a child, learn from. So, I want this movement of mothers with multiples to really be a something where mothers with multiples, they can just come. They can, maybe if they want to talk with a therapist, they can. If they want to see a doctor because this and this and that is going on. If they want to talk with a teacher to learn about the learning and the learning disabilities, or learn about where their child should be at this particular age, that they could do that. If they want to get resources, they could do that. I do have some people on board already that I've talked with that are ready to join me in making this come into fruition and making this to be successful. My son, Eddie's godmom, Dr. Allen, she is on board, totally on board with helping me with this. I have another nurse, Keena, Keena Parnell.
Okay.
She is on board with making this happen. Of course, you and I know a list of teachers with master's degrees in early childhood education that's willing to back me. So we just has I'm planning something. It's in the works of that. I'm really trying to get the platform out there, and I want to do something where we're able to come together, and maybe me, just as I'm sharing my story now, share my story with others so they'll know that what this movement is about, letting them know that, that if this is something that you want to join, that you can. But I just feel like that this is something that is needed. I've always said that, because for many years I cried silently with this because I was afraid to say something. Okay. I didn't know exactly what it was I was going through. I had to learn later in life that it was postpartum depression. So I just feel like that this is something that other women, I need to share my story.
Okay, great. For those who might be seeking support and they are currently a mother of multiples. What should they do? Where can they reach you?
Well, right now they can reach me. I have started, it's small right now. I have started a Facebook group. It's called Mothers with Multiples. You can join that group. You can also send me a message on Facebook. And
Name on Facebook?
my name on Facebook is Sean Pearson. You can reach out to me that way, and so we can connect and I can share what the next steps are for the movement.
Okay. Do you have an email for them that they could email you at?
I do have an email. I can be emailed at Shawn SHAWN 48224 at gmail.com. That's another avenue, a way of them to contact me as well.
Okay. Are you on IG at all?
Not really.
Not really?
Not
Okay,
really.
All right.
Yeah.
So Facebook and
Yeah.
the email. All right. So I always give a challenge. Always give a challenge to every one of my guests, right? So I'm looking for, it is March now. So by June, that is 3 months from now, by June, we want to have some collateral, email. At the drawing board experience, I want to be able to shout you out, mothers with multiples, and have you in the building. So everybody listen, if you want to meet up with Sean, you can either call Sean Pearson or LaShonda Bateman. Make sure that you come to the drawing board experience. I always finish with this. I share with people that their future is not behind them, that it is not before them, but it is within them. And so, Ms. Bateman, I appreciate you coming on. Pastor, we sending everybody that want to bear children, we sending them to you. You got to start fasting again, brother. Start fasting again so you can get ready to lay these hands and all. But bless you, sir. Thank you for having the faith. And now you have your triplets are 16 years old.
Yes.
They are emerging young adults.
But I also want to give a very special shout out and thank you to those women and men at Southeast Head Start.
Oh yeah.
Because those teachers were the ones who kind of like Keenan Atchison and Keisha Willis.
Yeah, Miss Willis.
And Samuel, Mr. Samuels, and Miss Robinson.
Yes.
Miss Shamia Cutright.
Oh yeah. Shout out.
I was trying to think of the other one. Miss Jones, who used to be at Salem.
Okay.
Those individuals, they really kind of took my kids under their wings, and they kind of like helped me to parent. They kind of helped me, taught me. I know, for example, when it came time for potty training, I kept with pull-ups. Keisha Willis said, no, it's time to be potty trained.
Oh, that's great. So, again, you are not talking from a position of theory. You're talking from a position of practice where you have the experience of walking through the vicissitudes, the challenges, the ups, the downs, the joys, the sorrows of being a mother with multiples. And now you're using your testimony to help others overcome, to support them and encourage them through this journey. So again, Ms. Bateman, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Everybody watching, we thank you for watching. And like I always finish, I just told Ms. Bateman, I gave her the line. She better be ready. Come on. Your future is not behind you. It is not what? Before you. It is, she was supposed to say it with me, you all. It is within you.
Me.
All right, God bless you. God bless you. This is the drawing board.
Thank you.
Mike's off. Give me 1 second for your video.
What do you think?